Welcome to Meet the Candidate. I'm Chris Clark, President and CEO of the Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce. Today we're joined by Queen Creek Town Council candidate Benjamin Harrison. Ben, thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here, excited to be here. I've never spent time inside the Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce. I'm excited to be inside the doors.
Well, we're glad to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your experience?
Yeah, so originally when I first started working of all time, I actually worked for the city of Scottsdale. I was in Parks and Recreation for about a decade. That took me to my next career where I was a classroom teacher for 8 years and then a district administrator for another 5 locally here. I actually taught in Queen Creek for a year. I taught a lot of times in Higley, and then I was an administrator in Higley right next door for 5 years. From there, I actually went to corporate America and I started working with national textbook publishers. I've worked for 3 over the past 11 or 12 years, and that's what I do today. So I'm in leadership there. I work, my team manages the West, and we supervise the education of roughly 20 million students. So,
wow.
So yeah, we do our best to move kids forward.
Those are big. And just out of curiosity, do they still print the textbooks?
Everybody actually asks that question. It's amazing. Yes, we still print textbooks. In fact, most districts want the option to be able to have a print version for equity and then access digitally as well. So we do both.
So they get both.
Yeah. Most of us in the space do both.
That's great.
Yeah, that's cool.
My kids don't know what it means to bring a textbook home. Everything's on their little Chromebook, and I think maybe we should get back to the
that's right.
the books. Right. But have you completed citizen leadership or held any leadership roles on boards or committees in the town?
So I have completed the citizens leadership. I completed that in 2023. I think is when I was an alumni back then. Boards or committees in the town, I have not taken an active role in. I've just been watching online and been a member in the audience. What I've done instead is ventured outside of just town leadership, and I've looked at larger programs. So one of the things I completed in 2024 was Leading for Change. It was a 9-month program that talked about creating your own institution and creating change in your community. So I really focused on that for about a year. And then after that, I've also taken candidate training coursework, again, through a company, that same company, Leading for Change. And the idea is to understand what it's like to run for public office and understand how to shape a message, how to craft things, and how to really take a second glance at your community and see what you can do that's different, that's already happening.
And that leads us right into, so why town council, and what specific things do you want to change or improve? What are you thinking?
So when I look at Queen Creek, by the way, I've moved to Queen Creek 20 years ago. When we moved here because housing was affordable. We had a cute little house. We knew we could raise our kids here, and everything was so new. 20 years later, a lot has changed in our lives, and what we're actually seeing is Queen Creek evolving. For Queen Creek to evolve, I think, in my opinion, what I'm hearing from citizens is we need to reshape some of the things that we see now as problems as opportunities. And I think I bring that mindset. One of the things I get really nervous about, my kids are teenagers, right? I told you we moved here 20 years ago. And I look at what happened over spring break and the number of arrests that were reported on national news here in our town. Well, what I see is an opportunity for us to start engaging our teens and start supporting them and giving them opportunities to do something that Queen Creek hasn't quite done yet. And I think I can bring that voice to the town and really help citizens. And that's what I hear from our neighbors, and I hope to bring a lot of those initiatives to the plate, really.
And so along those lines then, what do you think the top challenges are facing Queen Creek? Is it the teens, or is it something else?
So I actually, again, reframing that, while a lot of people see them as challenges, again, I still see them as opportunities. And I think about them on different levels, right? We have low-hanging fruit that we could optimize right now. Things like traffic patterns, things like which routes to take for citizens to go to work, go to school, go to play. I think we have that opportunity of something we can do in the next 6 months. But when we extend a little bit further out, that's when I look at things like what are we doing for our teens, and how do we support the 40% of our community that is 25 years or younger, because that's the future of Queen Creek. When I take it even further out, in 10 years down the road, I really want to know what Queen Creek's identity is. And I think we can start building that right now. We know what Scottsdale is. We're starting to see what Gilbert is. We know what Flagstaff is. But Queen Creek needs to build that identity, and I think this is the perfect opportunity to do that.
Do you have an idea of what that might be?
I actually think it's really up to the town, right? When I travel for work, so I get a chance to see many towns all over the country. I look at places like Chicago and the Chicago suburbs as an example, and every little suburb has its own little identity. You know, all of them rally together for like festivals in the summer, and all of them are on similar schedules for timing. But I think different parts of Queen Creek could have its own separate identity. I mean, we're kind of in these pockets anyway, so I think there's an opportunity there. And I'm really interested to see what the people of Queen Creek want it to be 10 years from now.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, one of the topics that comes up often is about our water supply. And do you think we can support great growth sustainably? And what do you think about our water supply and the steps that have been taken to diversify?
That's one of the things that I've paid a lot of attention to in Queen Creek because, as you can tell with me just sweating now, we get warm, right? That's just what Arizona does, and we need water to survive. So when I think about our water supply and I think about the moves that Queen Creek has made to really secure water for the next 100 years, I think we've really done a good job. I know some of the board members now. I've taken CLI. We've talked to about water for the next 100 years in great depth. What I don't think we've done a good job of, to be honest with you, is marketing it and letting people actually understand that, hey, you hear all of these water crisis pieces that are coming from the Colorado River and how there's not enough coming to the state. Queen Creek doesn't have that problem. We rely on less than 10% from the Salt River. 90% of our water is from aquifers. And I think we need to be able to have that story a little bit easier told and maybe even give folks some dashboards to say, hey, if we added 55 more targets, as an example, into our community, what impact would that be on our water supply, the 99-year water supply? If there was something that allowed folks to kind of better understand what's happening with our water than just Arizona's in a water crisis, that doesn't really apply to us. I think we need to do a better job communicating that. Right? Every ounce of water that's ever been here is still here. It's just a question of how do we make it safe and palatable for us to drink. You know?
That's true. Along those lines, the state legislature has recently proposed legislation that restricts municipalities from setting design standards or even regulating fees and taxes. So if there needed to be a new water fee or if fees needed to be adjusted, they wouldn't have that option. What do you think about that, and how do you think we might be able to work with that?
I think that's an important idea on how to better work with our state legislature in accomplishing some of the larger missions that they're putting forward. I don't think I understand all of the intricacies of that legislation that they've put forward. I don't even know if it's passed into law. And then I'd love to know, is it strictly around water coming from the Colorado River, or is it all water that's available here and all of the designs? Those are things I'd like to dig into before I pass any judgment on what it says.
Sure. And just to clarify, as we film right now, it has not yet been sent to the governor to be signed, and it's specific to design standards for new construction, and then also any taxes and fees. So, but yes, it's still being debated as we film today. And part of that idea of no design standards that the state is putting forward is that it would make housing more affordable. Do you think that the town should be doing something to make housing affordable? And if so, what might that look like?
Gosh, that's one of those hot button topics, right? I know that I've sat in town council meetings where folks have talked about apartments, and there seems to be an uproar about apartments for whatever reason, even though we have a number of apartment complexes already here and a number of great people in them. What I see in my world, in going to other towns and visiting with other professionals in this space, is it's not just affordable housing, but it's the right affordable housing that allows people to move forward in their lives. So a lot of what I'm starting to hear and starting to do more research in is middle housing. I don't know if you've seeing that the state actually passed some softer standards around middle housing, in fact, encouraging towns and municipalities to have developers create middle housing because it allows for a lower entry point when it comes to price point for younger families to get into homes. In Queen Creek right now, the average home price is $631,000, right? That means you need an annual salary of about $200,000 a year to purchase a home like that. And there aren't a lot of opportunities in our town just yet that are giving us those $200,000 a year full-time jobs. But there are places that people still need to live. So I think there's an opportunity when we think about those lower entry points, and middle housing is one of them.
And what does middle housing look like for those that may not know?
Yeah, I've seen it built in a lot of different ways. If we look over by, I'm thinking about some of the schools in the Gilbert area, in Higley. There's some much smaller houses closer together, even some duplexes or things like that allow for people to have ownership, create equity, and be able to buy and sell their home as needed so that they can move forward in their career and allow other young people to come in and buy a home at a lower price point than what our average is. You know?
So still for purchase?
Yep, still for purchase.
But maybe a duplex or maybe a zero lot kind of setup.
Exactly. Yep.
Would you put those in specific areas, or should they be able to go anywhere?
I think we definitely need specific areas. I think we need to specify a lot of areas in Queen Creek as we start to move forward. I was at a planning and zoning commission meeting the other day, and folks were talking about the animals and things that are happening with heads of steer and horses and sheep, and it's interesting. And I think that goes back to our 10-year plan of what I talked about when we start thinking forward of what do we want Queen Creek to become, and that's where maybe looking at pockets of Queen Creek and what we can do so that folks, when they move into a place with acreage, they understand, hey, I can have horses here. My neighbors should also have horses and or cattle. I think there's an opportunity there to really explore what Queen Creek can be, and I just think it needs to be some reimagined a little bit.
Very good.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned having our horses, and some of that harkens back to our roots.
Yeah.
What about the parks plan? Would you like to see more or less parks built in the future? Are you familiar with the town's park plan, and how do you feel about that?
I'm somewhat familiar with the town's parks plan. I need to obviously become more familiar with it. What I've seen, what we've done with Frontier, the new dog park at Founders, I was there for that opening as well. I live right by Mansell Carter. I walk up there a couple of times a week with the dog, right? I see a lot of what we're doing with our parks, and we're creating these magnificent facilities. What I experienced as a parent growing up here in Queen Creek is you could take your kids to the park and you could use the swings and use the playground and the splash pads and have a great time. But getting on ball fields is still extremely difficult in Queen Creek, right? In fact,
definitely a shortage.
They're not open. You have to reserve a ball field, which is a process in itself. I think there are some, like I mentioned, I think there's some opportunities. These were all growing pains that we were going to experience. I think there's some opportunities to create not only a parks plan, but a culture plan as well. I think there are only 2 or 3 different museums in Queen Creek, and they're very isolated. Nothing that folks can walk to and centrally rally around. I love the fact that we're creating a pedestrian and walkable downtown, but where are folks going to walk to besides just restaurants and shopping? I think there needs to be more, and I'm excited to explore that.
So walking is one form of transportation.
Yeah.
What do you think needs to be done to address the town's transportation issues, and what do you see as the town's transportation issues?
Well, I went to Costco the other day, and I was stuck. Heading southbound towards Rittenhouse, I was stuck behind Walnut, which is that next street, that next light. And while I was sitting there, I took a picture, and I'm like, we really could have thought about this, I think, from the very beginning. Heading southbound, and I know it's being addressed now, I'm just thinking about this out loud, but heading southbound on Ellsworth Loop to get to Rittenhouse is the only intersection that doesn't have a dedicated right-hand turn. When that Costco was built, we probably should have put in a dedicated right-hand turn, because it's not just Costco, right? Portillo's is over there, Cafe Zupas is over there, Black Rock is over there. There are a lot of new restaurants, and then there's a lot of homes in that area as well. There's a lot of folks that want to come downtown, and I think it creates a lot of congestion in our traffic. what I see as opportunities with our traffic is I think we need to reimagine not only what it's like to go from north to south Queen Creek, but what is it to go from west to east or vice versa Queen Creek, because again we have these pockets that are semi cut off just based on the roads that we've built. I think there's an opportunity there to inform our local residents what are best routes to take when we're going to try something different, right? We have a traffic engineer in the town here. If we want to try something different, we could send out an alert. We could let folks know in advance, and we could say, hey, for the month of June, why don't we, if you're heading this way, why not try Hawes and or Sossaman instead of Power and or Ellsworth Loop? We could start to have some experimentation, I think, and I'd love to try something different. I think that's what the community wants to see when we talk about traffic as something here. Not just light optimization and synchronization, but let's wholeheartedly try something new, because what we have is got us a little bit stuck, and I think has town residents a little frustrated.
And that covers quite a bit of of what you're going to be addressing. So
Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't covered that's near and dear to you?
Let's see. I think one of the things that's near and dear to me is I've never run for public office before. I think this is not only an opportunity to get my name out there, but also an opportunity to bring a little bit of change. Being an educator, knowing that kids are near and dear to my heart, I've got 2 teenagers myself. One of the things that my campaign is trying to do is to actually bring a teen event to the forefront in the next 12 months. Something like a teen takeover, something where we can partner with local businesses, have an event, and really do things like how do we understand e-bikes, and how do we get our teens in our community to really understand what e-bikes can do, and honestly the danger that they can pose, right? I think we all see some of that stuff. If you've ever been to Target on a Friday night, right? What makes me nervous is when we put a sign on the door that says, hey, after 6, you're not our problem. You go to your parents. Those kids don't go home, right? They just sit out in front of the store. I think there's an opportunity to rally kids to do something with them and bring the community closer together. So I would say that's near and dear to my heart.
Good. Ben, how do people find out more information about you?
Best way to find out information about me is to visit my website. It is www.harrison4qc.com. And from there you can shoot me an email. You can also find me on the town's website. All of the candidates are listed. My website is listed there, my email address and my phone number. Feel free to reach out.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you again for your time today. We appreciate you coming out to see us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.